Most people think avoiding crowds is a personality trait, a preference, an inconvenience. That's wrong. For some people, crowded places trigger the same neurological response as being hunted. Malls during Christmas, subways at rush hour, packed concert halls where strangers press shoulder to shoulder, breathing the same stale air. Most people tolerate it. Some people feel their autonomy collapse in real time. And if you think this is just anxiety, you're missing the real mechanism. Because this reaction isn't weakness, it's threat awareness, and it comes from something far older and far darker than modern psychology wants to admit. Crowds strip you of something essential: your space, your autonomy, your ability to choose where you stand, how you move, when you leave. In a crowd, you're no longer an individual. You're part of a mass, and for certain people, that's unbearable. Psychologists have terms for this: agoraphobia, more specifically, ochlophobia, the fear of crowds. But those words don't explain what's really happening inside the mind. Because this isn't always about fear. Sometimes it's about awareness. When you're in a crowded room, your senses are overloaded. Voices collide. Bodies move unpredictably. Exits disappear. You can't control the flow of people around you. You're forced into proximity with strangers whose intentions you don't know, whose moods you can't read, whose movements you can't predict. For most people, this registers as mild discomfort. For others, it triggers something ancient, a survival instinct, deep in the brain, in the amygdala and the nervous system. There's a part of you still wired for danger, because in nature, being surrounded without an escape route is how prey gets trapped. So when someone says they hate crowds, what they're really saying is, I can't afford to be cornered. People who avoid crowded places often share certain psychological traits: high sensitivity to stimuli, a strong need for personal autonomy, a tendency toward introspection, and critically, an elevated sense of threat detection. They notice things others don't: the man standing too close, the woman whose eyes linger a second too long, the shift in energy when too many people enter the same space. This isn't paranoia, it's pattern recognition. And here's where it gets uncomfortable. In families, in social hierarchies, in any system where control matters, these people are often the first to sense when something's wrong. They feel tension before the argument starts. They notice when a parent's mood is turning. They recognize when a room is no longer safe. And what are they told? You're too sensitive. You're overthinking. Just relax. But they can't relax because their nervous system is telling them the truth. Crowds aren't just uncomfortable, they're unpredictable. And unpredictability is a form of danger. Take this example. A middle-aged, successful, respected woman refuses to attend her own daughter's wedding reception because it's held in a small ballroom with 200 guests. Her family calls her selfish, distant, cold. What they don't see is this. As a child, her father ruled the house with silence and sudden violence. Dinner tables were crowded, family gatherings were loud, and in those moments, she learned that being surrounded meant being trapped. No escape, no control, no warning before the explosion. Decades later, her body remembers. Even when the threat is gone, the response remains. That's why people who hate crowds aren't reacting to the crowd itself, but to what it represents. Loss of control, loss of exit, loss of self-protection. Once you understand that, judgment fades, because they're not running from people, they're running from helplessness. In real life, the patterns are obvious. They position themselves near exits. They arrive early and leave early. They decline invitations not because they don't care, but because the logistics feel overwhelming. These aren't quirks, they're survival strategies. And here's what most people get wrong. These individuals are often highly functional. They're not hiding from life. They've simply engineered their lives to minimize environments where control disappears. They'll meet you for coffee at 10 a.m. on a quiet Tuesday, but they won't attend a packed Friday night concert with blocked exits. That isn't antisocial, it's self-preservation. The darker truth is that these people are also vulnerable, not because they're weak, but because they're isolated. In a world that rewards extroversion and constant presence, solitude makes you an outsider, and outsiders are easy targets. In families, it often looks like this. A son avoids holiday dinners because the house is full, the noise overwhelming, the expectations suffocating. He's labeled ungrateful, selfish, difficult. No one asks why. Eventually, he stops explaining and simply disappears, and the family convinces themselves he's the problem, when in reality, he's the only one who refused to pretend. Another pattern appears here. People who hate crowds tend to have strong personal boundaries. They notice invasiveness immediately. They sense pressure before it's spoken. And in systems built on conformity, that makes them dangerous, not to people, but to control. They can't be shamed into compliance. They can't be guilted into staying where they don't feel safe. That quiet refusal gets labeled as coldness or arrogance when it's actually awareness. One final paradox matters here. Many of these people are deeply empathetic. They absorb emotional signals intensely. In a crowded room, that's not just uncomfortable, it's exhausting. Solitude isn't loneliness for them, it's relief. Space to breathe. Space to exist without carrying the emotional weight of everyone around them. So if you know someone like this, understand they aren't avoiding you. They're protecting themselves from a world that takes more than it gives. People who hate crowded places aren't broken. They're aware. They've learned that safety sometimes means distance, that peace sometimes means leaving, and that you can't protect yourself when you're surrounded. It isn't fear, it's intelligence. And if you've ever felt that pull to step back when the world gets too close, you're not defective. You're listening to something most people have learned to silence. If this resonated with you, leave a comment and share what you recognized in yourself or someone you know. And if you're here for more than surface-level explanations, subscribe to Mind Enigma, because we're not done yet, not even close.